Hi, I'm Liao. I run developer evangelism at DocuSign. It's summer in Seattle, and I'm here with Tom Thokey, who works on security here. Tom, welcome. Thank you for your time. Tell us a bit about what you work on here.
Yeah, my role is Senior Director of Information Security Architecture and Consulting. Mine and my team's primary responsibilities are around assessing designs and functionality on both our corporate and product side of the house. We are also responsible for our risk management, information security risk management program.
Very cool. So at DocuSign, we handle some very sensitive and critical customer and client data. Things like mortgage documents, insurance information, health records, a lot of personally identifying information. Can you tell us a bit more about how we think about trust and security at DocuSign?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the highest level, when I think about security, there's two primary areas to think about. There's what I think of as proactive and what is reactive. The proactive side of security is about assessing what you have, understanding what's in place, preventing problems, building security controls in place to ensure that the environment is robust as possible from a security perspective. But security is imperfect, and what was secure yesterday may not be secure tomorrow, so a mature security organization has to have a solid incident response function that is a reactive function as well. So the best security programs in the world have both. You need to be able to educate and prevent and ensure that security is thought about at all times, and you need to be able to adequately react when the inevitable bad event occurs.
Let's unpack the assessments that you talked about a bit. Let's specifically focus on the proactive assessments because that sounds really interesting. Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we do lots of different kinds of assessments. There's no real easy one-size-fits-all, so we've built different assessment functions for different things that occur in our organization. We do assessments, we do the pen testing and the code review type assessments that you see in lots of places. Threat modeling is a newer and emerging thing that we also utilize quite extensively. We do reviews at a feature spec level and attempt to perform security reviews of future features in that regard. We have change review and change management functions where we bake security into that as well. We also have third parties that we leverage across our corporate and product environment. So third-party supplier assessments are another type of assessment. And that's not even the comprehensive list.
Wow, so clearly we put a lot of effort into securing customer data here at DocuSign. So you covered a lot of different examples there. Before we sort of try and pick on a couple of those and talk about them a bit more, let's focus on the outcome of that. Let's talk about, can you tell me sort of what actions and remediation are taken as a result of those assessments?
Yeah, I mean, you really hit the main point there. There would be no reason to do any sort of assessment if we weren't doing it for the focus on the remediation activity that follows. So that's a critical part. Now, because they're different types of assessment of different things, the remediation activities look very different. A code review results in potentially a bug that is related to lack of input validation, as an example. A developer and a security expert can sit down, figure out what they need to do to appropriately validate that input, and in a matter of hours, change the code, update it, run it through all the review processes, and ship it. But if we're talking about a feature change that is development work and product management work over the course of quarters as opposed to hours, those remediations are less about fixing things that are broken and more about ensuring that we build correctly. It's the build it in versus bolt it on security approach.
So you're starting to answer my next question, which is awesome. How does all this change how we build things here at DocuSign?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think we have to have these types of assessments like a code review or a pen test where you're looking at something that is built and you're making sure that it is secure and that anything found not to be secure can be remediated. But the real cool security stuff is when you're truly baking security into the process. When I talked about the feature specifications and a security review as part of that, it's less about finding places where there's a problem and fixing it, and more about understanding what the feature is intended to do, understanding the business use case, understanding the intended end functionality, and then building the security requirements into those specifications and building towards security.
Let's go back to that laundry list of assessments you talked about earlier. I remember in product bootcamp, so as my background being in security and privacy, when you started talking about threat modeling, my ears immediately perked up, and I got really curious about how we do threat modeling here at DocuSign. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I think threat modeling is really cool. I love doing threat modeling. I think there's lots of schools of thought around it these days. But at the highest level, a threat model is about thinking about problems a little bit differently. Devs and most people in most jobs are paid to build things that work. Well, when you threat model, it gives you the opportunity to look at an application flow or a design or something, and to figure out ways you can make it do something unintended, or figure out ways that you can break it. So the notion of threat modeling is, in a development environment, is to understand all of the data flows of the given feature and dissect them, figure out what could go wrong, and then develop mitigations, requirements that can be built into the future to prevent any sort of security flaw being added as you build.
You talked a bit about code reviews and upcoming features. It sounds like those could have very different remediation times. Isn't it sort of a challenge to ensure that security is top of mind during that process?
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why we do it that way. I think when we talk about a code review and a bug that results, it's a very discrete item. When we're talking about product feature changes, it's a matter of implementing security requirements alongside of the business requirements for that feature. In other words, we're not looking to find something wrong with what was built. We're trying to ensure that what is being built is done securely.
So I get it with like bugs and then the resulting bug fixes. With upcoming features, how do we know when we're done?
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of security. Maybe even call it job security for myself, but security's never done, and I think that's one of the critical pieces to this. I like to say there's no such thing as secure, right? So it's an ever-changing process. It's an ever-changing world, and it's something that we have to continually investing in just to stay even.
Thanks, Tom.